Why did Adolf Hitler hate the Jews? The deep roots of Nazi anti-Semitism. Hatred doesn't happen overnight. In this video, we explore why Adolf Hitler's anti-Semitism became one of the deadliest ideologies in modern history. From centuries-old prejudice to racial theories and political propaganda, the truth is more disturbing than you think. 1. Centuries of anti-Semitism in Europe. Long before Hitler, anti-Semitism had existed across Europe for centuries. In medieval times, Jews were forced to live in segregated ghettos, barred from land ownership, and forbidden from joining guilds. They were often blamed for plagues like the Black Death or accused of crimes like blood libel, the false claim that Jews killed Christian children for ritual purposes. Throughout history, anti-Semitic laws and church doctrines painted Jews as enemies of Christianity and society. This environment created deep-rooted cultural bias and made anti-Semitism socially acceptable in many European communities. By the 19th century, even in supposedly modern societies like Germany and Austria, anti-Semitic newspapers, political parties, and movements had become common. 2. Hitler's formative years in Vienna, 1908 to 1913. As a young man, Hitler lived in poverty in Vienna. He failed to get into art school and spent years in shelters and flophouses. During this time, Vienna was filled with far-right ideologies, including nationalism, racial theory, and anti-Semitism. Politicians like Karl Lueger used anti-Semitic rhetoric to win elections, blaming Jews for everything from moral decline to unemployment. Hitler read racist pamphlets and newspapers that portrayed Jews as corrupt, greedy, and destructive. Rather than questioning these ideas, he embraced them. His personal failures may have driven him to look for scapegoats, and the anti-Semitic culture of Vienna gave him one. 3. The myth of Aryan supremacy and racial hatred. Hitler believed in a racial hierarchy where the so-called Aryan, or Germanic, people were biologically superior. In contrast, Jews were seen not just as followers of a religion, but as a race that was biologically inferior, dangerous, and manipulative. He considered them to be parasites that infiltrated societies, corrupted morals, and weakened nations from within. This wasn't just bigotry, it was framed as science. Inspired by social Darwinism, Hitler believed that nations, like animals, competed for survival. In his worldview, allowing Jews to live among pure Germans would weaken the German race and eventually lead to extinction. 4. Germany's defeat in World War I and the stab-in-the-back myth. After Germany's defeat in World War I, the country was humiliated by the Treaty of Versailles. Many Germans couldn't accept that they had lost on the battlefield. Instead, a conspiracy theory emerged, that Germany had been betrayed by internal enemies, particularly Jews, communists, and leftists. This stab-in-the-back myth, Dolchstoßlegende, claimed that Jewish politicians and businessmen had sold out the German military. Although completely false, this idea spread rapidly in the 1920s, especially among nationalist groups. For Hitler, it became a core belief, a way to explain national failure without accepting reality. 5. Blaming Jews for both capitalism and communism. One of the strangest features of Nazi ideology was how it blamed Jews for two completely opposite ideologies, capitalism and communism. On one hand, Jews were accused of controlling banks, media, and global corporations. On the other hand, they were blamed for leading communist revolutions, such as in Russia. This contradiction didn't matter to Hitler, because the goal was not logic, but demonization. By blaming Jews for all sides of every crisis, Hitler portrayed them as the universal enemy of the German people. Whether Germany was suffering from inflation or political unrest, anti-Semitic propaganda offered a simple, but false, explanation. 6. Using anti-Semitism as a political tool. Hitler was a master manipulator. He understood that fear could unite people faster than hope. By blaming Jews for Germany's economic and moral collapse, he gave the public a target for their anger. This tactic allowed him to avoid addressing more complex issues, like unemployment, reparations, and modernization. In speeches, posters, and books, Hitler repeated the message, "The Jew is the root of all problems." This relentless repetition created a climate where hatred was normalized, and even expected. 7. Mein Kampf and the Blueprint of Hate. In prison after a failed coup attempt in 1923, Hitler wrote Mein Kampf. This book became the ideological foundation of Nazism. In it, he claimed that Jews were trying to dominate the world, destroy Germany, and corrupt the Aryan race through culture, politics, and intermarriage. He didn't just promote discrimination, he spoke of extermination. The book outlined his long-term plan: isolate the Jews, remove their rights, and eventually solve the Jewish question permanently. Many dismissed Mein Kampf at the time. They shouldn't have. 8. From Hate to Holocaust, the Final Solution. After Hitler came to power in 1933, anti-Semitic policies were introduced step by step. Jewish businesses were boycotted. Jewish professionals were banned from public jobs. Jews were stripped of their citizenship, segregated from society, and forced into ghettos. In 1941, the Nazis launched the Final Solution, the plan to exterminate the Jewish people. Over 6 million Jews were murdered in ghettos, concentration camps, and gas chambers. What began as words in Mein Kampf became the most horrific genocide in modern history. Conclusion: a warning from history. Adolf Hitler's hatred of Jews was not accidental. It was shaped by history, fed by ideology, and weaponized through propaganda. It teaches us how dangerous it can be when prejudice is mixed with power. The Holocaust didn't begin with gas chambers. It began with hate-filled words. Never forget. Never again. End screen text. Subscribe to explore more untold stories of history. Like and share to keep history alive.